The night was quiet on the predator homeworld, a heavy silence hanging over the colony like a blanket. The moons cast pale silver light across the sharp stone dwellings, and the hunting field stretched into the darkness beyond. Normally, the predators ruled this hour. They were born hunters, proud and fierce, never afraid of the night. Yet on this night, fear had come to them. Inside one of the dens, a predator mother stirred awake. Her sharp senses caught a strange emptiness. The nest beside her was cold. The warmth of her young, her cubs, was gone. She rose quickly, her eyes glowing faintly in the shadows. She called softly, expecting them to stir, but the den answered only with silence. Her heart began to pound. She searched the corners of the stone chamber, checked the furs, sniffed the air for their scent. Nothing. The cubs were not there. The mother let out a sharp cry, one that carried through the colony. It was a sound no predator wanted to hear. Within moments, neighbors rushed to her den. Warriors and elders appeared, their eyes wide and alert. "The cubs are gone," she growled, her voice trembling with rage and terror. At first, no one wanted to believe her. Cubs sometimes wandered inside the colony, hiding under stones or slipping out into the courtyards. But when the warriors searched every corner, they found no sign of the young. No paw prints, no broken walls, no marks of struggle. The colony grew restless. Other parents rushed to their dens, checking on their own children. A second cry rose into the night, then a third. One by one, predator families discovered the same. Horror. Their cubs were missing. Within the hour, panic spread. The predators gathered in the central courtyard, the place where their kind made decisions in times of crisis. Fires burned high, casting red light over their tense faces. Mothers clutched their remaining children tightly. Fathers sharpened their claws and weapons. The High Predator Council arrived, towering figures draped in bone and hide. Their leader, an elder with scars across his chest, raised his hand for silence. "Our cubs are gone," he said, his voice heavy with grief and anger. "Taken from us without sound, without sign. No enemy has ever dared such a thing against us. Whoever is responsible will not live to see the next dawn." The crowd roared in agreement, but beneath the anger there was fear. How could anyone enter a predator colony, take their young and leave without a trace? Predators were the hunters of the galaxy. They were not prey. Yet tonight, someone had treated them as helpless. The council began to argue. Some claimed it was the work of rival clans. Others whispered of old enemies from the stars. And then a single word spread through the crowd, soft at first, but growing louder with each voice. Humans. The predators turned toward the sound. Many had never seen a human, but the stories were old. Fragile creatures of flesh and soft skin, too weak to fight directly, too clever to trust. Legends told of humans outsmarting stronger races, surviving when they should not, bending even predators to their strange will. The elder narrowed his eyes. "Humans are a myth," but another counselor growled in reply. "Are they? Our ancestors spoke of them, small, weak, yet dangerous. If anyone would dare to steal from predators, it would be them." A low rumble passed through the crowd. Suspicion had a target now. Fear had a name. The mother who first discovered her cubs missing stepped forward. Her claws shook with fury. "If the humans have touched my children, I will tear their bones apart with my own teeth." The crowd answered with snarls and shouts. The hunters demanded action. The colony would not rest until their cubs were found. Warriors prepared to leave immediately, their armor glinting under the firelight. They swore oaths to bring the young back or to spill the blood of whoever had taken them. But not everyone agreed. One of the elders, an old hunter who had seen many battles, spoke with a slow, deep voice. "We have no proof it was humans. We have no proof it was anyone. We must follow the trail before we strike." anger blinds us, but the truth will guide us." The crowd fell silent. Even in their rage, they respected wisdom. Scouts were chosen, the finest trackers of the colony. They crouched low to the ground, their eyes scanning every stone and shadow. They searched for broken twigs, disturbed, earth-faint scents carried on the wind. Their kind had hunted across stars. If there was a trail, they would find it. The mother of the missing cubs insisted on joining them. No law could stop her. Her grief burned too hot. She would not wait in silence while strangers searched for her young. She would follow the scent of her children until her claws bled. The hunt began. They moved through the outer courtyards, past the walls of the colony, into the dark forests beyond. The night was alive with sounds of wild creatures, but the predators ignored them. They listened only for the faintest cry of a cub. Hours passed, and the trail seemed impossible. No broken branches, no drag marks, no signs of forced movement. It was as if the cubs had walked away on their own, but that was madness. Predator cubs never strayed far from their dens at night. Something was wrong. At last, one of the scouts raised his hand. He had found something, a faint mark in the soil. Not a claw, not a paw, a footprint. The predators gathered around. The shape was strange, small, rounded, too soft for a predator's heavy step. The mother hissed. "Human," the trackers confirmed. The mark did not belong to any beast they knew. It was foreign. Fragile but real, the hunters grew restless. The word human spread again through their ranks, sharper this time like a blade. Perhaps the myths were not myths after all. The High Council ordered the trackers to continue. The footprint led deeper, into the forest, away from the colony. The predators followed, silent shadows moving between the trees. Their eyes burned with fury, yet the deeper they went, the stranger it became. The trail was light, almost too light, as if whoever carried the cubs knew how to hide their path. Not even rival predator clans moved with such skill. Only prey moved like this, and only the most cunning prey. At the edge of a ravine they found another sign, a strip of fabric caught on a thorn. It was not predator hide. It was woven, thin, strange. The scent on it was unlike anything they knew, sharp and foreign. The mother took it in her claws and stared at it with rage and despair. They breathe our air. They touch our ground. They dare to take what is ours. The elder hunter studied the cloth carefully. If this is human work, then the old stories are true. They are not warriors of strength. They are thieves of opportunity. The night deepened. The predators pressed on, but unease grew in their hearts. They were not chasing beasts or rival hunters. They were chasing something far more dangerous, an enemy who fought with silence, with shadows, with patience. The forest grew colder. The moons dipped lower. The predators moved together, but doubt gnawed at them. What kind of being could take predator cubs without leaving a scream behind? What kind of prey dared to touch the children of hunters? The answer waited ahead, hidden, in the dark. But for now, the predators only knew one truth. Their cubs were gone, and they would kill to get them back. The colony did not sleep. Fires burned through the night as predator warriors prepared to leave. The cries of frightened parents echoed through the stone corridors. No one felt safe, for if cubs could vanish, then what protection did walls and claws truly give? The High Predator Council met once more in the central courtyard. Warriors gathered, in lines, their armor glinting in the firelight. Mothers stood behind them, holding their remaining children close. Fear had twisted into anger, and anger demanded action. The elder with the scar across his chest raised his voice. "The trail leads into the forest. We have seen the footprints. We have seen the foreign cloth. Whoever dares steal from us hides out there. Tonight, we hunt." The crowd roared, their voices shaking the night. The colony had always been strong. They had fought rivals, wild beasts, and alien threats before. Yet this felt different. This enemy did not challenge them in open battle. This enemy had struck at their very hearts, stealing what no predator could live without, their children. The hunters prepared their weapons. Some carried curved blades carved from bone. Others held energy rifles taken from past wars. Their claws glistened, sharpened for killing. They strapped armor across their shoulders and painted their faces with the marks of vengeance. But before they could leave, the elder hunter spoke again. Strength alone will not bring the cubs back. Whoever has taken them moves with silence. They leave almost no trail. To fight such an enemy, we must think as they think. We must move as prey moves, patient and clever. The younger warriors snarled at the thought. To move like prey was an insult, yet they could not deny the truth. The enemy had slipped past their guards, past their senses, past everything they trusted. The trackers, chosen from the best hunters of the colony, stepped forward. They crouched low, sniffing the air and scanning the ground. Their eyes gleamed in the firelight sharp as blades. The mother of the missing cubs joined them. Her shoulders shook with rage, but her steps were steady. "I will not wait here while others search for my children," she said. No one dared stop her. A predator mother's fury was a force greater than law. The hunters set out. The colony watched them leave, dozens of shadows slipping into the night beyond the walls. The fires behind them grew smaller until they were swallowed by the forest. The woods were thick and dark, filled with towering trees that creaked in the wind. Strange creatures stirred in the branches. But the predators paid them no attention. They moved in silence, each step careful, each breath measured. For hours they followed the faint marks. A footprint here, a bent blade of grass there. It was a trail so thin that any ordinary hunter would have missed it, but predator eyes were trained for survival. Slowly, piece by piece, they pieced the path together. The mother moved with them, her nose lifted to catch the faintest scent of her cubs. At times she swore she smelled them, faint traces of their fur and warmth drifting on the air. Each time her heart ached and her claws dug into the earth. The trackers grew uneasy. The trail was too careful, too deliberate. Whoever carried them, cubs, was skilled, not a beast, not a rival predator, something else. At the edge of a clearing they found another sign, a circle of disturbed soil where someone had rested for a time. The grass was flattened and there were marks of tiny hands, predator or cub hands. The mother dropped to her knees and pressed her face to the ground. Her cubs had been here. She could almost hear their laughter, their cries. Beside those small marks were others, longer, thinner, hands too soft and delicate to belong to predators. The warriors stared at them, silent. The mother whispered the word all had been fearing, human. The younger hunters growled and spat. Their hatred burned hotter now, to think that fragile prey dared touch their young, to think that myths walked their forests. But the elder hunter crouched beside the marks, his expression unreadable. If these are human hands, then the stories were not lies. We must tread carefully. Humans fight with cunning, not with strength. If they have the cubs, then we must learn why. Do not strike blind. The words were wise, but the warriors did not want patience. They wanted blood. Still they obeyed, for the elder's scars told of victories long past. He had faced enemies. None of them had known, and his wisdom was hard to deny. They moved on. The trail led deeper into the forest, where the trees grew close and the shadows stretched long. The night was quiet, except for the steady sound of their steps. Every warrior felt the weight of unseen eyes. The mother's breathing grew heavier. She was driven by something stronger than duty or command. She was driven by love. She whispered the names of her cubs under her breath, as if calling them would make them appear. The trackers found another sign. This time it was not on the ground, but hanging from a branch, a piece of cloth torn and frayed. It was pale in color, not the dark hides predators wore. The fabric was soft, woven, and it carried a faint, strange smell. The mother snatched it and held it close. Her eyes burned with tears and fury. "They carried my children in this," she growled. "They dared to touch them with these weak hands." The younger hunters demanded to press forward faster, to tear apart the forest until the humans were found. But the elder hunter stopped them once more. If they wished to kill the cubs, they would be dead already. Instead, they keep them alive. We must learn why. Do not forget that the lives of the cubs come first. Rage will not bring them home. Reluctantly, the warriors nodded. Their hatred boiled, but the truth of the words chained them. They would not risk the cubs' safety by charging blindly. The trail twisted toward the river. The predators followed the sound of rushing water until they reached the banks. The soil here was soft, and the footprints were clearer. They saw the small cub steps, scattered and confused, as if the children had wandered. They saw the larger, softer prints beside them, steady and careful. One warrior growled low. The cubs walked. They were not carried by force, they followed. The thought made the hunters pause. Why would predator cubs follow a stranger, let alone a human? Their kind were born with sharp instincts. Even the youngest cub knew the scent of danger. Yet the prince told a different story. The mother clenched her fists. They must have been tricked, lied to. Humans are deceivers. The elder hunter did not answer. His mind turned over the puzzle. If humans were truly behind this, then their actions made little sense. Why steal cubs only to keep them safe? Why leave such faint trails instead of vanishing completely? The river carried no more signs. The footprints ended at the water's edge. Either the humans had crossed, or they had followed the river to mask their path. The hunters split into groups, moving in both directions. The mother stayed with the main group, heading downstream. The air grew colder, and the forest grew quieter, as if even the animals knew not to disturb the path ahead. Hours passed. The predators pressed on, but frustration grew. The trail was clever, twisting and vanishing, reappearing only in faint traces. Whoever they pursued knew how to move unseen. At last the mother stopped. She dropped to her knees, her hands pressed into the earth. She closed her eyes and let her instincts guide her. She was not only a hunter, she was a mother. She felt the faint presence of her children, not through scent or sight, but through the bond only a parent knew. She opened her eyes and pointed toward the hills rising in the distance. "They are there." The warriors followed her gaze. The hills loomed like dark teeth against the sky. Somewhere beyond them, the truth waited. The elder hunter gave the command. "We move." They crossed the river, climbed the slopes, and entered the wild beyond. Each step carried them farther from the safety of the colony and deeper into the unknown. The night stretched on. The hunters felt the weight of exhaustion, but none slowed. The cubs were their future, and no predator could rest. While their children were in danger, the trail grew stronger as they neared the hills. The scent of humans was clearer now, sharp and strange in their noses. The mother's heart pounded. She was close. She could feel it, yet with every step, the danger grew. The predators were not chasing prey. They were walking into the hands of something clever, something patient, something bold enough to steal from hunters. The hunt had only begun. The hunters moved deeper into the hills, the cold wind cutting across their armor and fur. The moons had begun to sink, and the sky held the faint grey promise of dawn. Yet the predators did not slow. Their claws gripped the rocks, their eyes searched every shadow, and their ears listened for the faintest sound. The mother led the way. She had not spoken in hours, but every hunter knew what drove her. The bond between mother and cub was stronger than any command. Her body trembled with exhaustion, yet her steps were steady. She was certain her young were ahead. The elder hunter walked at her side, His eyes moved constantly, scanning the hills for traps. He had lived through many wars, and he felt something in the air that he could not name. The trail was not only strange, it was deliberate. Whoever they followed wanted to stay hidden, but had not vanished completely. That was a puzzle that gnawed at his mind. As the hunters climbed, the trackers found more signs. A branch bent unnaturally. Stones shifted out of place. Each mark was faint, but together they revealed a path. The cubs had been here. They're small. Prints appeared again in the soft soil between the rocks. The mother touched each one with her claws, her breath catching in her chest. Yet beside those prints were the others. The human steps, small compared to predator claws, but steady, careful, and deliberate. The hunters growled at the sight. Each step was a reminder that someone dared walk with their cubs. One of the younger warriors spat on the ground. They walk as if the cubs are theirs. I will tear their throat when I find them. The elder hunter silenced him with a glance. Your rage blinds you. Study the trail. The cubs were not dragged. They were not forced. They walked willingly, beside whoever led them. The words chilled the group. No cub would willingly follow prey. No cub would abandon the safety of their den to walk into the night. Something was wrong, something they did not understand. The mother's claws scraped against the rock as she hissed. Then they were tricked, lied to. No predator child would trust a human. Still, the thought lingered in their minds. Why would cubs follow? The hunters pressed on. As the path curved around the side of the hill, they came upon another sign. A small bundle lay beneath a tree, covered with leaves. The trackers approached it with caution, sniffing the air. The scent of cubs clung to it strongly. The mother lunged forward and tore the leaves away. Inside was a cloth, soft and strange, wrapped around something small. She lifted it with trembling hands. It was a piece of cub fur, carefully tied with string. Her heart leapt at the proof of their presence, then sank as she realized what it meant. Someone had groomed her children, cared for them, even tied their fur into a keepsake. The hunters murmured in disbelief. One growled, "Why keep such a thing? Are they mocking us?" The elder shook his head. "No, this was done with care. This is no act of cruelty. It is something else." The hunters did not like his words. They wanted an enemy they could hate, not a mystery that made no sense. They moved forward again, climbing higher into the hills. The air grew thin and cold. The rocks cut into their feet, but they did not slow. Every step carried them closer to the truth. Then the forest shifted. The ground leveled into a plateau, where trees spread wide and the underbrush grew thick. The trackers froze, raising their hands. Ahead lay a circle of disturbed soil, larger than before. The hunters crept closer, their bodies low, their weapons ready. At the center of the clearing, the earth was pressed flat, as if many bodies had rested there. And in that soil lay something that made every predator's chest tighten. A small bone toy. It was carved crudely, a child's plaything. The mother dropped to her knees and picked it up, holding it against her chest. Her cubs had left it behind. She could almost smell their fur on it, but there was more. Scattered around the toy were small scraps of food, dried and wrapped in cloth. Predator cubs could not prepare such meals. The human must have done it. The hunters stared at the sight in stunned silence. Their missing cubs were not starving. They were being fed. Their missing cubs were not crying. They had been kept safe enough to play. The younger warriors roared, in anger. "This is insult. They fatten them like cattle. They treat our children as pets." The elder's eyes narrowed. "No, look closer. These are not the marks of cruelty. They are the marks of care." The words sent a shiver through the group. None of them wanted to believe it. No predator wanted to admit that a human, a creature weaker than themselves, could care for their young. Yet the evidence lay before them in the dirt. The mother pressed the toy to her chest, her teeth bared in pain. "I do not care why. I only care that my children are returned to me." The hunters moved on, more determined than ever. The trail grew clearer now, as if the one leading the cubs no longer cared to hide. Perhaps they believed the predators would never catch them, or perhaps they wanted to be found. The forest grew quieter as the hunters moved deeper into the plateau. The air felt heavy, thick with tension. Every branch seemed ready to snap. Every shadow seemed ready to move. At last, they heard it, a sound carried faintly through the trees, soft, rhythmic, not the growl of a beast or the cry of prey. It was the sound of breathing, steady and calm. The mother froze. Her ears twitched, her chest heaved. "My cubs," she whispered. The hunters crept forward, their claws silent against the earth. The sound grew clearer. Alongside it came another, softer still. The quiet murmur of a voice. The predators exchanged uneasy glances. A human voice. They moved as shadows, weaving between trees until the clearing came into view. The sight that met their eyes stopped. Them where they stood. There, beneath a great tree, lay their cubs. The children were curled together, their small bodies rising and falling with gentle breaths. They were not tied, not bound, not in pain. They slept peacefully, their faces calm, their claws tucked against their chests. And holding them, resting with their heads against his chest, was a human. The man looked young, his clothes torn, his face weary. His arms were wrapped around the cubs protectively. His eyes were closed, and his breathing was slow, as if he too had fallen into a deep sleep. The predators stared, their jaws clenched, their hearts pounding. They had prepared for blood, for screams, for cages, but this was something else entirely. The cubs were safe. The cubs were warm. The cubs had chosen to sleep against the human, as if they trusted him more than anything else in the world. The mother's claws shook. Rage, confusion, and relief battled inside her chest. She wanted to lunge forward and tear the human apart. She wanted to scoop her cubs into her arms and never let them go. She wanted to scream at the sky for answers. The younger warriors lifted their weapons, ready to strike. But the elder raised his hand. "Stop!" His eyes were locked on the human. On the way, the cubs nestled against him. He saw no malice in the scene, no cruelty, only something stranger than he had ever imagined. The forest held its breath. The predators stood frozen at the edge of the clearing. The mother took a single step forward, her voice breaking as she whispered, "My children." The cubs stirred faintly at the sound, one of them letting out a soft whimper before sinking back into sleep. The human's arm tightened around them instinctively, as if to shield them from harm. The hunter's rage burned hotter, but so did their confusion. The truth lay before them, and it was not the truth they had expected. The predators had followed. The trail of thieves. They had expected to find their cubs in chains. Instead, they had found them asleep on a human's chest, and nothing in their long history had prepared them for that sight. The clearing was silent, except for the steady breathing of the human and the cubs. The hunters stood at the edge, hidden by the shadows of the trees, their claws flexing, their hearts racing. Never in their history had they seen such a thing. Predator children, the future of their species, sleeping not in dens of stone or on the warm chest of a parent, but on the fragile body of a human. The mother could no longer hold back. With a cry that was part rage and part sorrow, she broke from the trees and charged forward. Her claws dug into the soil, her muscles trembling with the force of her grief. The other hunters moved with her, surrounding the clearing in an instant. The human stirred, his eyes opened slowly, heavy with exhaustion. He blinked against the faint morning light, then froze when he saw the towering figures around him. His arms instinctively tightened around the cubs, pulling them closer against his chest. The mother stopped only a few steps away. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her fangs bared. She could smell her children, alive and unharmed. Relief mixed with fury until her voice shook. "What have you done to them?" she demanded. The human did not answer at once. He looked from one predator to another, his face pale but steady. His arms did not loosen. He spoke finally, his voice rough but calm. "I kept them safe." The words fell into the clearing like stones. The hunters snarled in disbelief. One warrior raised his blade, another hissed in fury. The idea that a human would claim to protect predator young was an insult beyond reason. The mother stepped closer, her claws inches from the human's face. "You expect me to believe that? You steal them from their beds, drag them into the night, and now you dare tell me you protected them?" The human's eyes narrowed. "I did not steal them. I found them. They were wandering in the storm, alone, cold. If I had not brought them with me, they would be dead." The hunters paused. His words clashed against their rage. They wanted to see a thief, a coward, a liar, yet his voice carried no tremor of deceit. The elder hunter crouched low, his scarred face unreadable. "Why would cubs wander into the night? They are not fools." The human shook his head. "The storm tore through the valley. I saw the damage in your walls. Perhaps they slipped free. Perhaps they were afraid. I do not know. All I know is that when I found them, they were crying. I could not leave them." The mother's chest ached. Her children stirred faintly at the sound of voices. One cub gave a soft yawn, nuzzling deeper into the human's arms, as if he were their parent. The sight made her claws tremble with fury and confusion. "You dare hold them," she hissed, "as if they are yours." The human met her glare. "I held them because they were cold. I fed them because they were hungry. I sang to them because they were afraid. If that offends you, then strike me, but know this, if not for me, they would not be breathing at all." The words struck like thunder. The hunters shifted uneasily. They could not ignore the truth before their eyes. The cubs were not starved. They were not wounded. Their faces were peaceful, their fur warm. The younger warriors wanted to kill. Their claws twitched, their weapons gleamed, but the elder raised his hand once more. If he wished them harm, they would already be dead. Yet they live. Why? The human looked down at the children in his arms. His voice softened. "Because they remind me of home." The hunters froze. None expected such an answer. The human continued, his eyes distant. "I once had a family, a small one, a son and a daughter. They were taken from me when raiders came. I could not save them. When I saw your children crying in the storm, I could not turn away. I could not fail again." The clearing was heavy with silence. Even the forest seemed to listen. The mother's rage faltered for the first time. The human's words cut deeper than she wanted to admit. One of the warriors snarled, refusing to accept the story. "You speak lies. You are prey. You are weak. You twist words like snares." The elder studied the human closely. He saw the lines of exhaustion in his face, the dirt on his skin, the way his hands trembled slightly from fatigue but never loosened around the cubs. His instincts told him this was not a trick. This was something real. The mother's eyes burned. With tears, she wanted to deny it, to strike and take her children by force, but the cubs refused to leave his arms. One whimpered softly when she stepped closer, as if frightened she would take them away. Her heart cracked at the sound. "Why do they trust you?" she whispered. The human looked at her with tired eyes. "Because I did not treat them as prey. I treated them as children." The words shook the hunters more than any weapon. To be called prey was the deepest insult. Yet this human had flipped the meaning. He had seen their cubs not as trophies or hostages, but as something worth protecting. The mother's claws lowered slightly. Her rage still burned, but her confusion grew stronger. She could not understand how such a fragile being could command the trust of her young. The human spoke again, his voice steady. "I do not ask for thanks. I only ask that you take them home. They are safe. That is all that matters." The hunters exchanged glances. None had expected such surrender. No demand for reward. No threat, just a quiet offering of life. The elder finally rose to his full height. His voice carried the weight of command. "If what you say is true, then you have done what no predator could imagine. You touched the future of our kind, and you left them unharmed. That is no small thing." The younger warriors bristled. "We should kill him. No human should live after touching predator blood." The elder's gaze silenced them. "And yet he has saved what even we could not protect." The mother's claws tightened around a toy she had found earlier. Her instincts screamed for vengeance, but her heart ached with gratitude. She looked at the human, torn between hate and reluctant respect. The human gently lifted one cub and extended the small bundle toward her. Child stirred, blinking sleepily, then reached for his mother's fur. The predator mother took her cub, her arms trembling. She pressed the child against her chest, inhaling their scent, her tears falling freely. The other cubs stirred and reached for her as well. Yet when she moved to take them, they cried softly, reaching back toward the human. The hunters gasped. Never had they seen such a thing. Predator young, torn between their own mother and a human. The mother froze, her heart twisting. She gathered her children in her arms, but their cries tore at her soul. For the first time, she felt powerless. The elder stepped forward. "This is no ordinary meeting of predator and human. This is something new, something dangerous perhaps, or something important." The human rose slowly, his legs unsteady. He looked at the predators surrounding him without fear. "I have nothing else. Take me if you must. But remember that I kept them safe." The hunters surrounded him, their weapons raised. The mother stood over her children, her chest heaving with conflict. Rage battled with truth. Vengeance battled with gratitude. Hatred battled with something she did not want to name. The cubs cried louder. Their small voices filled the clearing, echoing into the hills. The predators had found their missing children, but the mystery had only deepened. Why had a human been the one to protect them? Why had the cubs chosen to sleep on his chest? And what would the predators do with a human who had touched their future? The forest gave no answer. Only the cubs did, their cries rising into the dawn. The clearing was alive with tension. The sun had barely risen, yet its light touched the edges of the forest, casting long shadows across the hunters and the human. The cubs whimpered in their mother's arms, torn between her and the strange protector who had kept them safe through the night. The air was thick with growls, anger, and confusion. The hunters stood in a wide circle, their claws flexed, their eyes sharp and watchful. Weapons glimmered faintly in the light. They were ready to strike if their leader gave the command. The human did not run. He stood tall, though his shoulders sagged with fatigue. Dirt clung to his skin, his clothing was torn, and his arms bore scratches from the storm and the cub's claws. Yet his eyes were steady, his face calm. He did not move away. He did not release his grip on the last cub still clinging to his chest. The mother predator's gaze burned into him. She cradled two of her young in her arms, but her heart twisted at the sight of the third, still holding to the human. Her voice was sharp as she growled, "Give him to me. He is mine." The human shook his head slowly, his hand gently stroked. The cub's back to calm the child's cries. "He is afraid. If I force him away, he will panic. Let him come to you when he is ready." The hunters roared at his defiance. A warrior lunged forward, but the elder blocked him with a single motion of his claw. The elder's eyes narrowed as he studied the human. "You dare deny a mother her child," the warrior snarled. The human's voice was calm, though his chest rose and fell with fatigue. "I deny nothing. I only refuse to hurt him. Look at him. He clings to me because he trusts me. If I pull him away now, his fear will cut deeper than any claw." The cub whimpered softly, burying his small face against the human's chest. The mother's claws trembled. Her heart ached to hold her young again, yet the truth was clear before her eyes. The child was terrified of leaving. One of the younger hunters growled, This is a trick. He has bewitched them. The elder's voice rumbled low. And what spell can a human cast that even our strongest cannot? No, this is no trick. This is something else. The mother's rage burned hotter. She stepped forward until she stood only a pace away from the human. Her claws hovered near his throat. One swipe and he would fall. The other hunters waited for her command, their muscles tense, their weapons ready. The human did not flinch. He looked into her eyes with quiet strength. If you believe I harmed them, then strike me. But if you strike, do it knowing they live. Only because I did not. The mother's breath came fast and heavy. She wanted to end him, to silence his defiance, to erase the insult of seeing her children trust prey. Yet her cub's tiny claws dug into the human's shirt as if begging her not to. Her heart wavered. She roared in frustration, her voice shaking. The trees. The human stood firm. His body trembled from exhaustion, but his eyes never wavered. The elder raised his hand again. Enough! We will hear him speak. Then we will decide. The circle of hunters shifted uneasily. None liked the idea of giving the human a voice, yet none could deny that the cub's trust demanded answers. The elder fixed his gaze on the human. Tell us why. Why did you not leave them to the storm? Why risk your life for children who are not your own? Why, when you are prey, would you act as protector? The human drew a long breath. His voice carried through the clearing. Because life is precious. Because I could not stand by while children suffered. Because once I had children of my own, and I could not save them. I would not fail again. The mother's claws lowered a fraction. His words echoed in her chest, stirring memories she wanted to bury. She remembered the night her first cub had almost been lost to sickness, the helplessness she had felt, the terror of nearly losing what she loved most. The hunters shifted uncomfortably. Some scoffed at his words, yet others found themselves silent, unable to dismiss them. The warrior who had snarled before stepped forward again. Words are cheap. Perhaps he seeks to win pity before he strikes us in our sleep. The human shook his head. I seek no pity. If you wish my life, take it, but do not lie to yourselves. Your children are alive because I chose to protect them. That is the truth. The cub against his chest whimpered again, as if sensing the rising anger. The human soothed him with a soft hum, a sound so gentle it silenced the clearing for a heartbeat. The predators stared in disbelief. The lull of prey's voice calming predator young was a sight none could have imagined. The mother's claws finally lowered. Her voice was heavy with pain. Give him to me, please. The human crouched slowly, lowering himself until he was at her level. He whispered gently to the cub, stroking his small head. Go, your mother is here. You are safe. The cub stirred, his small eyes blinking open. For a moment he looked between the human and his mother. Then, with a small cry, he reached toward her. The human released him carefully, and the child leapt into her arms. The mother held him tightly, pressing all three of her cubs against her chest. Tears burned her eyes, but her face remained fierce. Her children were safe. That was all that mattered. Yet her heart could not silence the truth. They had trusted a human more than her. The hunters murmured among themselves. Some demanded the human's death. Others whispered that to kill him would dishonor the truth of what he had done. The elder's voice cut through the noise. We stand at a crossroads. If we kill him, the story will die with him. If we spare him, the story will live. The galaxy will know that predator cubs slept safely on the chest of a human. The words struck the hunters deeply. To allow such a story to exist was dangerous. It could weaken their fear across the stars, yet to deny it felt like a lie that even claws could not hide. The mother looked at the human. Her voice was soft, almost broken. Why did you do this for us? Why risk everything for those who are not your kind? The human's answer was simple. because no child deserves to die in the cold. The hunters fell silent once more. The confrontation at dawn had begun with rage and threats. Now it balanced on a knife's edge. The mother's claws hovered between striking down a man who had saved her cubs or allowing him to live and carry a truth that could change their people forever. The cubs whimpered again, clinging to her fur. They looked once toward the human, their eyes wide and innocent. Then they buried their faces against their mother's chest. The hunters waited. The forest held its breath. The mother raised her head high, her voice steady and cold. "You will not die today, but do not think you are safe. What you have done will not be forgotten. By me, by them, or by the stars." The human nodded once. "I do not ask for safety, only for peace." The circle of hunters slowly lowered their weapons, though their eyes remained sharp with distrust. The elder's gaze lingered on the human, thoughtful and heavy. The sun climbed higher, painting the clearing in gold. The storm had ended, yet another storm, far greater, had only begun. The confrontation at dawn was not the end. It was the beginning of something neither predator nor human could yet understand. The forest clearing still carried the weight of the confrontation. The hunters stood in silence, their claws lowered, but their eyes filled with suspicion. The mother held all three of her cubs close, her chest rising and falling with the rhythm of their tiny breaths. The human stood a short distance away, weary but unbroken, his face set in calm resolve. The elder predator lifted his head, his scarred face grim. "This cannot end here. We must know how this happened. We must know why our young were taken from their den." His voice rolled across the circle of hunters like thunder. The mother's eyes flicked to the human. Part of her still wanted to strike him down and end the insult of his existence. Yet another part of her burned with the need for truth. How had her children ended up in the storm? How had they fallen into the arms of prey? The hunters began to mutter among themselves. Some accused the human of tricks, of luring the cubs out to claim them. Others whispered doubts, pointing to the cubs' peaceful faces, their health, their trust. The elder raised a claw, silencing them. "We will return to the den. We will see with our own eyes, then we will know." The mother nodded sharply, clutching her cubs. Her gaze swept over the human. "He comes with us." The younger hunters bristled at the idea. One growled, "He does not belong within our walls." The elder's voice was firm. "He stays under guard, but he comes. If he speaks truth, the den itself will show it. If he lies, it will betray him." The hunters closed in on the human. Spears and claws pointed. Toward him, a wall of threat at his back. The human gave no resistance. He simply nodded once and walked in step, his head held high. The group moved through the forest, shadows stretching long in the rising light. The storm had left scars on the land. Trees bent and broken lay scattered. Mud clung to the hunter's paws and the human's boots. The cubs whimpered softly but grew calmer in their mother's arms as the forest grew familiar again. When they reached the den, the sight stopped them all. The walls of the structure, once strong, bore fresh cracks. Stones had tumbled down, leaving a gap low to the ground. The storm's force had pushed against the defenses, prying open a hole large enough for small bodies to slip through. The mother's heart clenched. She walked forward and pressed her claws against the broken stones. The truth hit her like a blade. Her children had not been stolen. They had escaped through weakness in her own walls. The elder crouched and studied the ground. His sharp eyes traced the faint prints in the mud. Tiny paw marks led away from the gap, weaving in chaotic patterns. The trail stretched toward the forest. He rose slowly and turned to the hunters. They fled in fear when the storm struck. The walls broke, and they ran into the night. No hand pulled them away. No claw dragged them. This was no theft. The mother's knees trembled. Shame burned inside her chest. She had accused others. She had blamed enemies. She had even blamed the human. Yet the truth was clear. Her children had been lost because of the storm, not because of malice. The younger hunters growled uneasily. Their anger had no clear target now. To blame the storm was to accept weakness. To admit failure of their walls was to admit shame upon the entire colony. One warrior snarled, "Even if they wandered on their own, the human should not have touched them. He is prey. He should have left them to die." The elder's eyes snapped to him, cold and sharp. "Would you have done the same? Would you have walked away from our young while they cried in the dark?" The warrior faltered, his jaw tightening. He looked away, unable to answer. The human spoke then, his voice steady but low. "They were afraid. I know that fear. I could not abandon them." The mother looked at him sharply, her claws tightening around her cubs. Her heart twisted. She wanted to hate him, yet every word he spoke was truth. He had not caused their suffering, he had saved them from it. The elder's voice carried over them all. "The truth is before us. The storm broke our walls, the cubs fled. The human found them and guarded them until dawn. That is what happened." Murmurs rippled through the hunters. Some bowed their heads in shame. Others bristled in defiance, unwilling to accept that prey had done what they had not. The mother's eyes burned. She stepped forward until she stood before the human. Her cubs squirmed softly, but she held them tight. Her voice was raw. "You kept them alive. For that, I owe you a debt. But do not think this makes you one of us. You are still human. You are still prey." The human met her gaze without flinching. "I never asked to be one of you. I only asked that the children live." Her breath caught in her throat. The simplicity of his words struck her deeper than any blade. The elder looked at the hunters, gathered around. "The story of this night will spread, whether we wish it or not. We cannot silence what happened. We cannot kill truth. Predator cubs were found sleeping on a human's chest. The galaxy will remember." The hunters shifted, uneasily. To let such a story spread would shake their reputation. They were feared across the stars. Fear kept enemies at bay. Fear made them strong. If the galaxy believed that Predator Young trusted humans, would that fear crumble? The elder's eyes swept over them all. "We must decide. Will we honor what was done, or will we bury it beneath lies?" The silence that followed was heavy. The mother pressed her muzzle against her children, breathing in their warmth. She remembered their cries in the night, the terror of thinking they were gone forever. She remembered the sight of them sleeping peacefully against the human, safe and unharmed. Her heart whispered an answer she did not want to give. She lifted her head and spoke quietly. "We cannot lie about this. The truth is carved into their hearts. They will remember even if we deny it. When they are older, they will tell the story. It will not die." The hunters shifted again, some growling, others bowing their heads. The elder nodded once. "Then it is settled. We honor the truth. We carry it no matter how heavy it may be." The younger warriors bristled, but said nothing. The elder's authority was unshakable. The human stood silently, watching. His face carried no pride, no triumph, only weariness, only the calm of a man who had done what he believed was right. The mother looked at him one last time. Her voice was heavy with warning. "Do not mistake this for friendship. You saved them, yes, but you will never be trusted among us. Walk carefully, for many will still wish you dead." The human inclined his head. "I understand." The cubs whimpered softly again, their small eyes flicking toward the human as if reluctant to let go. of his presence. The mother held them tighter, her heart torn between anger and gratitude. The hunters began to disperse, their growls fading into the forest. The elder lingered, his gaze lingering on the human. His voice was low, meant only for him. "You have changed something today, perhaps for better, perhaps for worse. Time will decide." The human said nothing. He simply stood in silence as the predators moved away, their shadows stretching long in the morning light. The truth had been revealed. The cubs had not been stolen. The human had not been their enemy. Yet the revelation did not bring peace. It brought only questions. What would this truth mean for the predators, for the humans, for the galaxy that thrived on fear and survival? The storm had ended. But another storm, far greater, was only beginning. The sun rose higher, burning away the damp chill of the storm. The forest smelled of wet earth and broken branches. The predators moved slowly toward their colony, their steps heavy with the weight of truth. The cubs nestled in their mother's arms, safe but restless. Their small eyes flicked again and again toward the human, walking under guard at the rear. The hunters marched in silence, their weapons still drawn. Every clawed hand was ready to strike if the human made a single wrong move, yet he did not resist. His eyes remained on the ground ahead, his body steady despite the exhaustion that dragged at him. When they reached the colony gates, the guards stiffened. Their eyes widened at the sight. The cubs had returned alive. Yet beside them walked a human, surrounded but unharmed. Whispers spread quickly through the gathered crowd. "How can this be?" one guard hissed. "Why does prey walk beside us?" Another growled. "Do not be fooled. He is no savior. He is a danger." The mother ignored their words. She pushed through the crowd, her cubs clinging tightly to her fur. Her heart still raced with anger and confusion, but her children's safety gave her strength. She strode into the heart of the colony, the hunters following close behind. At the center of the colony, the High Council waited. The elders rose from their stone seats as the group approached. Their eyes, sharp and ancient, swept over the cubs first. Relief softened their faces. But when their gaze fell upon the human, their expressions hardened like iron. The elder hunter who had led the search stepped forward. His voice was steady, carrying the truth. "The cubs live. The storm broke our walls, and they fled into the forest. This human found them. He sheltered them through the night. He guarded them until dawn. This is what happened." The council chamber filled with angry growls. The younger hunters slammed their claws against stone. "Lies! A human would never protect predator young." The mother's voice cut through the uproar. "It is no lie. I saw it with my own eyes. When we found them, they slept against his chest, safe and unharmed. He did not steal them. He saved them." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. No one could deny her words. She was the mother. Her voice carried the weight of truth that none dared challenge. The council leader's eyes narrowed at the human. "You touched what is most sacred to us. You held our future in your arms. Why?" The human met his gaze without flinching. His voice was steady, though his body trembled from fatigue. "Because they were children. Because they were alone. Because I could not walk away." The council leader studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to the hunters and the cubs. How do they respond? The mother hesitated. Her arms tightened around her children. She wanted to protect her pride, to deny what she had seen. But her cubs betrayed the truth. They squirmed in her arms, their small claws reaching out toward the human. One gave a soft cry, as if calling for him. A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. The cubs had chosen. The younger hunters roared in outrage. "This cannot be. Predator young do not seek prey. He has poisoned them." But the elder hunter raised his claw. "They are not poisoned. They are comforted. Even now they feel trust. That is no trick. The human looked down at the cubs, his face soft with quiet sorrow. They do not belong to me. They belong to her. They only trusted me because I was there when they needed someone. The mother's chest ached. She could not deny the bond her children felt. It cut at her pride like sharp steel, yet it also stirred something deeper: gratitude. The council leader's voice rumbled low. This truth is dangerous. If the galaxy learns of it, our fear will weaken. Enemies will test us. Yet to kill him now would stain us with dishonor. He saved what we could not. Silence gripped the chamber. Every hunter knew the weight of the choice before them. To honor the human meant risking their reputation. To kill him meant silencing truth, but staining their honor. The mother stepped forward, her cubs still clinging to her. Her voice was steady, though her heart trembled. I owe him a debt. My children breathe because of him. I cannot kill him. I will not. Gasps filled the chamber. For a predator mother to speak such words about a human was unthinkable, yet none could deny her right. She was the one most wronged, and she was the one most saved. The council leader's gaze swept across the chamber. Then we decide. He is not prey. He is not predator. He is something between. Let the record show that once a human guarded, a predator young, and they lived. The words fell like a stone into still water. Ripples of shock spread through every hunter. The human bowed his head slightly. That is all I ask. Nothing more. The decision did not erase the hatred in the eyes of many hunters. It did not erase the shame in the hearts of those who had failed their duty, but it carved a new truth into their history. Days passed. The storm damage was repaired. The cubs grew stronger, returning to their playful selves. Yet they often looked toward the edge of the colony, where the human remained under guard. They remembered his arms, his warmth, his songs. The mother saw their longing and felt her pride twist with every glance, yet she could not bring herself to deny them the truth of their bond. Sometimes, when no others watched, she allowed them to see him from a distance. She watched as they reached for him with soft cries, and she watched as he knelt, offering only a smile and a quiet wave. No, words passed between them. None were needed. The story began to spread beyond the colony. Traders whispered it in passing. Travelers carried it to distant worlds. Each telling grew larger, but the heart of it remained the same. Predator cubs had been found safe, sleeping on the chest of a human. Across the stars, species that once feared the predators began to question. If even predator young trusted a human, what did that mean for the balance of power? What did it mean for the myths of humans? Long thought, fragile, and weak. The predators themselves wrestled with the story. Some saw it as shame, others saw it as a sign, but none could erase it. The mother, alone with her cubs at night, often thought of the moment in the forest when she had seen them safe in the arms of prey. Her heart still burned with confusion, yet when she pressed her muzzle against her children and felt their steady warmth, she whispered a silent truth she could never speak aloud. He had saved them. The human was eventually led beyond the colony walls. He did not resist. He asked for no reward. His only request was that the children be safe. The elder walked with him to the border of the forest. You changed something, the elder said. Perhaps you made us weaker. Perhaps you made us stronger. I cannot yet tell, but the stars will remember what you did. The human nodded once. His voice was quiet. That is enough. He turned and walked into the forest, his figure fading into the shadows of the trees. The cubs cried when they learned he was gone. Their mother held them close, her chest aching as she soothed them. She told them they were safe, that they were home, that they needed nothing more. Yet deep inside, she knew a bond had been forged. A bond no distance could break. It was not forged by claws or blood. It was forged in silence, in trust, in the fragile strength of a human who refused to walk away. And so, the story of the predator's lost cubs and the human who kept them safe was carved into the memory of two species. A story that whispered across the galaxy. A story that would not die, because in the darkest storm, in the coldest night, the predators had discovered a truth greater than fear. They had discovered that even prey could become guardian, and the cubs would never forget the warmth of a human's chest.